Hey gang, it is just me and my plant and a whole bunch of rows of data here. Don't get overwhelmed. We're not going to talk about all this. All I want to talk about today is colors, mainly red and blue. That's it. But a little bit more than that. But before we get into that, just let me give you the rundown because this is market update time. Here is the deal. We are into July, and this is a shift point in the seasonal market. This is going to be a tale of two halves. What happens after the 4th of July is buyers are out looking for homes less than they were in the previous half of the year, basically. The spring selling market is over, essentially, and buyer activity is going to drop because people are focused on other things now, finishing up summer. Then they'll be getting kids in school, and buyer activity will continue to drop in some way, even if it's a small way from now until the end of the year. And so that is going to mean, obviously, there are fewer buyers out there. Will that mean fewer homes are sold? Probably, because we've already had a downturn in the number of homes sold this year compared to last year. And what we're going to see, there's still low inventory because there's just way fewer homes coming on the market. So inventory remains low because people aren't selling. People aren't buying as much as they were the last couple of years, but then people aren't selling either. There's this interest rate gridlock going on where interest rates, sellers are locked into 3 to 4%. Well, if they don't have to sell, you could see why they wouldn't want to take on a 7.5% interest rate right now, because they are not good comparatively. And so you get that. So that is kind of what's we expect to see from now until the end of the year. More homes sticking on market, more homes. There's just a rise in inventory with that drop in buyers, and more price reductions, more opportunities if you are a buyer to get a home for under asking price or with significant seller concessions, which can help with those interest rates that we talked about. So that is what we expect to see. Here is the deal with the data. Basically, this is from Megan Aller's market report that I talk about all the time on these market updates. And don't worry, this there's so much, there's like thousands of rows of data that actually goes into all this stuff. But basically what we're looking at here, it takes all these things into account. Average daily active, new listings back on market, everything. I'm going to move myself over there. A month's supply of inventory. But then on the left, you see the months. They go from January to December, top to bottom. And basically all I want you to look at is the red and the blues, because more red across, from left to right means more of a seller's market in those months. And then more blue means more of a buyer's market. So what we're looking at right now, this thing is 2022. So you can see a lot of red in the early part of the year, and then shifting more to yellow and definitely into blue as the year ends. And that's because, if you remember last year, it was a total frenzy in the early part of the year. Then around May, June, you'll see over here on the left, that's when interest rates rose, and that is when things started to cool off. So then next, I'm going to go to this year, and you'll see comparatively, if I go back and forth, it's like eye doctor, like number one or number two. But on number two, you see less red in the early half of the year than you did last year, because it just wasn't the same. Interest rates have already risen, but you're already starting to see some blue. You saw some blue up there in January, and you're seeing more blue even May and then into June and July. And so what we're going to see, look at what happened last year. We're going to see a lot more blue start to happen in July, into August, as we head down this direction and fill the rest of this graph. And so it's going to get a lot bluer, and there's just going to be more opportunities for buyers, more listings on the market. You see what we're doing here with supply of inventory. We look at this graph all the time. Basically, it was much lower. If you look at January, February, inventory dropped again. It really squeezed kind of in this zone right here, and it's crept up, and it'll continue to creep up. It might not spike where it was at the end of last year, but it might get close. We don't know. It's very interest rate dependent, all this stuff is, and we can talk about whether those are going to come down or why they haven't come down. This is odds of selling, and you see odds of selling is kind of coming down around 50%. This is odds of selling in the first month on the market. We're going to look at the DMAR market trends report now, just to look at a couple things. This isn't the best I get it. This isn't the best video, but I just wanted to point out a few things from their sort of opening statement in their mid-year update from this guy, Steve something over here. So active listings at the midpoint when they measured was just above 6,000. And in June of 2021, which is 2 years ago when things were really crazy, it was about half that with 3,122. But then if you compare to a pre-pandemic number, you'll see over here on the right, 9,500. So we're still well below that. When we look at 2019, we think of it as more of kind of a normal market. We're still well below that. We're still seeing an inventory squeeze. But Steve points out, whoops, sorry, that's not Steve's fault. That's mine. Down here where their circle is, we've seen a decline of 23% in closings year over year. So fewer buyers out there, fewer people selling, fewer homes being sold. It makes sense, doesn't it? Median close price 600,000. We don't have to look at all this. You're seeing this is active listings right here. The green one is for attached and detached, and you're seeing a big drop. Okay, basically near in February into March when things were at their peak of the spring market, and then now they're shooting back up. But are they going to shoot up in terms of inventory where they were in 2018 and 2019? Probably not, because you see over here, if you go into basically these little areas here, 2020 and 2021, super low. It shot way up last fall and into winter and then dropped a bit. You see the seasonal ebb and flow here, but are we still going to be back up to 2018, 2019? Probably not at this moment, depending on what happens. But if we go down here, the median close price, you see it was shooting up and then dropped and kind of shot up again, and now it's leveling out. That is something we can expect to happen based on seasonality. Average days in the MLS is between 20 and 25 right now. So what does all this mean? What's the point? Basically, just like I told you before, we're going to see a lot more price reductions. We're going to see a lot more inventory the second half of this year. Interest rates, a lot of people, I would say the majority of people, the majority of experts expected them to come down and be at least in the low sixes, or in a lot of people said in the fives by this point. And they're not. They're still in the sevens. And again, interest rate that you get depends on a lot of things. But in general, interest rates are in the sevens. And so the question now becomes, when will they come down? And how long does that take? If they get to 6 or into the high 5s, is buyer activity going to pick way, way up? Yes, things are going to change. But right now, that's not happening. And even between now and the end of the year, the people I respect most don't think we'll see a significant drop in interest rates. So this is going to be going on for a while. So if you're a seller and you don't need to sell, you're probably not selling right now. If you do need to sell, what I say all the time, you just need to be strategic. It's still a low inventory market. You can still succeed if you do things the right way. If you're a buyer, a lot of buyers are waiting on the sidelines now because they want this. Obviously, I don't want to buy a house with a high interest rate. It increases your monthly payment so much. But a lot of buyers are the ones who are in a position where they have to buy, or they're ready to buy, or they're tired of renting. And if you can buy now and you can afford the monthly payment, there's opportunity right now that there won't be once rates drop and everybody else comes out. If you were shopping for a home during the bidding wars and the frenzies, you know how that was. And it wasn't a whole lot of fun. So you have those opportunities now. You'll always be able to get the good mortgage rate whenever that comes around, whenever it is. It's called a refinance. It can happen no matter what. You can't always get the opportunities you can with the seller concessions and the lower purchase price that you will be able to get between now and the end of the year with what's going to go on with inventory. So it's tough because you have to be able to afford the monthly payment, but that's where rate buy downs from the seller concessions come into play. You can get a 2-3 year temporary rate buy down significantly, 2 to 3% lower than the prime rate from the seller, assuming a house is sitting on the market and the seller is willing to give you those concessions. That'll be anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 in concessions directly from the seller that then pays your rate buy down. That's a great hack to get through the next few years. And that is, again, we don't know when the rates are going to drop. So you have to be comfortable knowing that. But there are opportunities in down markets, if this is considered a down market. And a lot of people are waiting on the sidelines because of fear and because of real world considerations too, which it's a lot more expensive to buy a house right now with interest rates than it was 2 years ago, even though it was a lot harder to get under contract 2 years ago. Now you can kind of have your pick, and that's going to keep happening more and more until the end of the year. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on. I obviously will be keeping an eye on inventory and sharing with you guys what we see, but we're at a line of demarcation in the seasonal cycle, and there are a lot of non-seasonal factors like interest rates that are going on right now too that are going to be very important, very interesting to pay attention to. So if you have questions, let me know. Comments, just reach out directly. If it's like, hey, this is my situation, what do you think I should do? I'm happy to talk you through it. Obviously, that's my job. That's what I do. I want to be your guys' go-to real estate resource, not just for these videos, but for actually helping you through this stuff. And a lot of the time, the answer is, I don't think you should do anything right now. I don't think you should sell your house. Or, this is what the scenario looks like. A lot of the time, that's just a job. So I'm always going to shoot straight with you, and hope you guys know that. So thanks for watching, and we'll see what happens.